Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. With over 1,000 NCAA commitments, the EHL is the proven path to college. Turn it up and learn more about the college placement leader at the Division II and III levels.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, "We take care of our own," as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's going on? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 67 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, I welcome in Anthony Lorusso to the podcast for the very first time. ALO is the president of the Philadelphia Little Flyers. He's been with the organization for every season since the EHL was formed back in 2013. Our conversation breaks down the 2020-21 campaign and everything that the Little Flyers had to endeavor at both the EHL and EHLP levels. We then transition into another debate with the E-Crew over who's in and who's out of the all-time lineup for the Little Flyers. I'm joined now by Anthony Lorusso, the president of the Little Flyers, also known as ALO. ALO, it feels like this is a long time coming. Welcome to the E-Show.
Neil, feels good to be here finally. I appreciate you guys having me on. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. We got to get together and do this more often.
I think we've probably name-dropped you over 100 times in the history of this podcast. So to have you on finally, it is an absolute pleasure. For those that don't know, as I mentioned, you are the president of the Little Flyers, but you also work at the rink. You've been there the entire time the Little Flyers have been in the EHL. Can you talk about what your role entails?
Yeah, it's been like a crazy kind of roller coaster ride to get where we're at, I guess, right? So I started here as an intern during my college days, 2010, and then did my internship here, got offered a job. I was actually working in the pro shop for probably like 8 months to a year. And then Iceworks got a bid for Curling Nationals 2012. So like I actually owe my start to the sport of curling, which is kind of weird.
That's awesome.
So they came to me and were like, hey, like, we're doing this big national event. We need workers. And, you want to be on the local organizing committee and set it all up from scratch. So that's kind of how I got my start there, and then started doing social media and marketing for the rink. So then that became my full-time job. And then as we progressed, John Giacobbe asked me to scorekeep some games for him their last year in the Atlantic Junior League before the EHL was formed. So I started doing that, and then, score kept for them full-time the following year. And then John comes to me one day and goes, John in the South Philly accent, like, hey, what do you know about Facebook? What do you know about Instagram? I was like, I know a lot about it, John. And he's like, I think we need to be on there. So it kind of just started from there, and then was doing the marketing and social media for Little Flyers. And then when John was ready to get out, our rink owners took over the team, bought the team, however that works. And I got named the guy to be in charge. So that's a little short history of the ladder of development myself there, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, and there's been 2 ownership groups, 3 head coaches, and yourself the entire time. Has there ever been a thought to try anything else, or have you really just enjoyed climbing this ladder of progression yourself?
I enjoy the climb for here. Like, it's a progression like anything else in life. You need experience, and you have to have somebody willing to give you experience and opportunity, and that's what happened to me here. Whether it was our ownership group at Iceworks that gave me the opportunity to work here, or John Giacobbe giving me my start with the Little Flyers, then obviously that transition with our ownership group, them knowing the kind of work that I can do and things like that. And, a lot of that has to do with being around good people for all these years, right? Like John Giacobbe and his wife, Ro, put in a good 30-something years with this organization as far as youth all the way to the juniors. So I owe a lot to them. And then, Rocky, when Rocky was the coach, he kind of just let me be around and learn from him. And I'd ask him questions, even if they had nothing to do with me or whatever my job was. And same thing with George, and Catron's the same way. So, I owe a lot to those 5 or 6 people. And then there's a lot of, it takes a lot of people to make it work over here, right? We have Tom Williams, so no offense to anybody else in the league, I think he's one of the best play-by-play guys we got. So I know I don't have to worry about that on a daily basis. Mike Camerata takes care of our trainers with, Hillary and Jason and Stacy and stuff like that. So I don't have to worry about that. Eric's a great scorekeeper. So like, as far as game day goes, like I know my bases are covered and I don't have to worry about any of that stuff because we have the right people doing the right job. So those people make my job a lot easier.
And as things have progressed, you've gotten more and more involved with the roster management side of things, where
Yeah.
you're more into the signing of the players now. So let's transition into the 2020-21 Little Flyers teams.
Okay.
I know neither one of them made it to the Frozen Finals, but when you look back on the two teams from this year, what can you be most proud of?
I think everybody in the league just has to be proud of how their guys came together and we got through it as a group, right? Like, but from no matter where we were, every state was dealing with different, I don't know if we're calling them laws, whatever they were, guidelines and suggestions and regulations, whatever you want to call them. And they were coming from everywhere, right? And then you had state ones and local ones, which messed up a lot of teams to where like your state was saying you can do something, but your county says you can't. So I just give our guys credit, like our 50 guys that were in here, they trusted what we were doing, trust the process, as we like to say in Philly a lot. But they did the things that we asked them to do, right? They stayed out of the stuff outside of the rink as far as being in heavily transmitted areas and stuff like that. And it was a grind. And I think everybody did that. And just credit to those guys. They were here for a reason to play hockey. I told you, I think earlier in the season, we're ready anytime, anywhere. So
yep.
We just stayed ready to go. And I give those guys credit for all that stuff.
And speaking of regulations and guidelines, we obviously had our finals in Pennsylvania because it was the only state within the footprint at that time that was allowing other states to come in and play. But it wasn't that easy for you guys all year long. At one point, you guys were only allowed to have, I think it was 10 guys on the ice at one time. How many times did you have players come into your office or you with Catron and say to you, like, I don't know if I can do this anymore?
Zero. Like there wasn't one time where a guy came in and was like, this is, obviously there was player movement throughout the year, but that was for, I think, more opportunity and chance, especially when you have 2000s that have to get to college and, the year that we were involved in. But a lot of our movement was older guys looking for more or different opportunity in a different place. There wasn't one kid that came in and was just like, hey, like this season's messed up, I can't do it anymore, which was good. Like we had a good group of committed guys here and they knew it was going to be a struggle. And going back to those times, you can only, I think it was a month, we could only have 9 guys and Coach Catron on the ice. So it came to every day to where like you're sending text messages to guys like, all right, you're going to go with this group today. So you basically had 9 guys in the locker room going up to practice. Then the next 9 would come and go to the gym. And then you had like 9 waiting. So like, it was just like a moving obstacles of getting guys to where they had to go. And it wasn't ideal, but it worked out for us. So everyone had to battle through this stuff, and we just did it just like everybody else did.
Yeah, let's talk about each team in particular. Start EHL, because I bring up that question because your EHL team was actually one of the younger teams in the league. We've noticed over the years that teams have just been almost loaded with age outs, by the end of the year, 15 plus age outs. I think you guys had just over double digits. When you have a young team like that who's playing against some teams that are older and maybe dropping more games early on, how did you guys maintain their focus and their confidence?
I think it had a lot to do with there's a good veteran leadership with that group, right? Like Dante, even though guys weren't like Ryan Hull was our captain and he did a great job as being our captain, being our leader. And then you have a guy like Scott McGraw who really stepped up to be a leader. Dante Catone's been here for 3 years. Brett Turner's been in the program for 4. He just made his college commitment yesterday. So congratulations to Brett. But there was a good leadership group there that kind of kept like our heads in what we were doing. Like we started 3-9, and I know it's been talked about a lot on the podcast. And I think I know Jeff's going to be on here later. I think he called us the best worst place team in hockey one time. Kyle called us that. Yeah.
Yes.
No. Yeah. So. It was a rough start, and Jakub Kubik was coming over from the Czech Republic and maybe needed a little time to get adjusted to the EHL game, the North American style of play. But once he did, he was lights out for us at the end of the season. Cassidy and Henson played well for us as well. So we also had a lot of guys that came in that had really good top tier 1 experience as far as the 18U level go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that helps a lot because they're playing a national schedule and they know that it's a grind and they're playing bigger, stronger, faster kids all the time that maybe some of our guys aren't seeing at the 18U level.
Yep.
And I think that really helped. And once they got in here and got their feet wet, like look what Connor McDonald did once he got going, 5-6 games in. And the same thing with Beauvais and Nicosia playing together, the Michigan line there.
Yeah.
And a lot of good young guys on that team, the Sea Wagons, the Pattons, the Fritches, and our D is going to be young. We're going to have some good returners coming this year. So we're excited.
So I have to ask, you don't have to give us your secrets, but how do you have the conversation to bring that Michigan line back? Because if you do, that could be one of the top lines in the league next year.
The conversations have already been happening. Obviously, those guys are going to get some good opportunities to play at a higher level, and we're all about that. And as you know, with our history, maybe we'll get into that a little later.
Yeah.
If the opportunity is there for one of our guys to move up, we're going to give it to them no matter what time of the season it is.
Yeah.
So that's what we tell people coming into here, and that's what you have to do. You have to keep your word to your players, because without that, you don't have anything. But getting those guys back would be huge for us, and I do think they'd probably go down as one of the most dominant lines in history of the league if the three of those guys come back and play.
And a name that you brought up in that segment was Brett Turner. And I want to go back to him because he spent 2 years with you guys with the EHLP, 2 years with the EHL. He actually was on your first, I think, EHLP team, which is 2017-18 team. I think that was actually even a lease year. I think that was more of a temp trial run for you guys. But the EHLP team has kind of taken off since then. And you had a trip to the Frozen Finals. I know you lost in a championship game back in 2018-19, but year in and year out, your EHLP team has been a contender just like the EHL team. And it's been a feeder for you guys. Can you talk about how important the development of that side of your program has been for the whole organization?
Oh, it's huge. So I guess a couple years before that, we had the Met League team when obviously the EHL didn't have the younger division. But getting that was huge, and Brett Turner was a big cornerstone in that. He came from a really good local high school team. He was playing Tier 1 over at Westchester and decided to come over. But you added him with Kyle Scott and Eric Mard and Ryan Sharkey and those guys, and they made you a viable competitive team right away, to where kids in the area can be like, okay, if I don't make EHL, here's something to strive for, and they're going to be good and they're going to compete, and the organization is going to give those kids a chance to move up. On this year's roster, you had Shane Green, Luke Hedman, Sebastian Romanecki, Tyler Cassidy, 4 guys that were big contributors down there. And then obviously Tyler Marvel had a really good year down there, and then came up and played 2 good years at EHL for us. So that's worked well for us, and we're hoping to continue that. And and even if you have some guys that are young and make the EHL roster at camp, they might not stick, but then they have somewhere to go and to be better, and the support's still there, and they have the opportunity to skate with the EHL team on a daily basis while still playing in the Premier. So it's a great thing. I think it's worked league wide. You can see how it's worked. The guy that scored the game-winning goal for Boston in the finals, right? He's a Premier guy, huge Premier. Yeah, Malin Druko, huge Premier guy. I know Jeff's a huge fan of his. He'll shouting his name out there. So just look what he's done. He did really well for himself, and that's a good thing. You have to have that transition there to show that guys are going to be competitive at that level, and then obviously get their college proven at the end of the day.
And you guys have created, as you just started to allude to before, this, I don't want to call it strange, but it's a unique pipeline to the NA South. And it's not just Amarillo, because you actually have a former Premier goalie who won Goalie of the Year, who's now playing in Lone Star, and that's Graham Burke. He was on that championship team. I know that's a very unique situation, but when you have a kid that young who has the chance to climb the ladder, but maybe not through the EHL, how did that conversation go, and do you still keep in contact with him?
Graham, we actually talk to Graham pretty often. Catron has a really good relationship with him, 2 Delaware guys. So Catron talks to Berkey pretty often, and I talked to Berkey probably 3-4 times this season. Obviously reached out to him at the beginning, wished him luck. And then he was reaching out back and forth when things were happening throughout the season. And you always use your contacts. I tell people that all the time, no matter what you're doing. So we want to go back to the whole Michigan line thing. 2 of the Michigan line guys played with Graham Burke at CompuWare the year before. So there's how some of those relationships work. And then, then Graham's parents are here. So then McDonald's parents and the coach's parents feel good that there's somebody they know out here. And it just all works in a circle like that. But the Graham Burke situation was a unique one, because he was a really good, obviously talented goalie. He won Goalie of the Year. He had a great run in the playoffs. And you're not going to keep a kid like that in the Premier for that year. But then you had Tommy coming back, and you had Adrian. So you didn't know if Graham was going to be able to get in there and steal that job. So the best thing for him at the time was go play for this top Tier 1 18U program in the country, and then look what happened to you. So the good thing about it is, and I tell people all the time, as long as you wore the Little Flyers jersey once, that's all it is for us, right? You were in the organization, you played, and then And that was a stepping stone for you to get to where you want to go. And look what he's done with his opportunity. He's been playing great. So, we just wish him the best of luck and success. And, and Graham's home for breaks and stuff like that. He wants to come skate with us and, hang out with the boys and come to practices, and he comes to games and shows his support. So he's a good little flyer, and we'll always appreciate what he did.
And you never know what the future could hold, right? You can run into a situation like this year where the influx of talent just pushes players in different directions. I say Graham Burke, but you look at Jacob Crespo, who played for the 87s. He went EHLP to NA also and came back to the EHL. We don't want Graham back right away, but if the situation presents itself, I'm sure you guys will welcome him back with welcome arms. But I want to transition into a little bit of a tougher subject for something that took place this past season, because the impact of it was that huge. And for those that don't know, not sure how you don't know, because it was pretty big news, what happened to Brian Page, who's a player within your organization. No, he never played any junior games at either level for us. But can you just touch on, obviously he went through a pretty catastrophic injury, but the outcry from that, and the GoFundMe page, I think, is still up and over like $300,000 now. What was that like for you, and how did it change almost your life during that time?
Neil, it's like and I tell this people all the time, it's the craziest thing that I've actually been a part of, to see the outcry of support for this kid and his family, like in hours, like absolute hours. And there's a million stories I can tell, and I think it would take way too long on the podcast, but any person that you could imagine that reached out and just did what they could do to help, like, it was crazy. And a lot of that started with the EHL. And I know you and I had those conversations to where, the next day. So I actually found out we had a game that Sunday, and one of the 18U parents texted me while we were in the locker room after the game and was like, hey, like, this happened. So I told Catron. He told the boys real quick. Obviously, we didn't have any news, but those guys skate together all summer long, and they all are aware who Brian is. And but just whether it was Drew from the Penalty Box Foundation, Britt jumped on right away and started helping us with graphics, and then the Grizzled guys, Anthony got involved right away, and what they were able to do was amazing. And those guys still keep in contact with me every couple of weeks. And Brian's fight's going to be a long fight here, but he's a warrior in every sense of the word. And you look for his little updates on Facebook from the group that they have on there, and whether he moves a toe or a finger or whatever, like, that's all successful stuff. And that kid's never going to give up on anything. He's going to grind it out. So, but the support was crazy from organizations and players, parents inside the league. Like, it was something unbelievable to be a part of.
And it's never, it's obviously unfortunate when this takes place, but then you see leagues like the NHL pick up on stuff like this, and obviously for the wrong reason, right? Because a kid got hurt in the way that he did, but you see the NHL come around it, and even his favorite player in Sidney Crosby come around it. At that point, do you have to kind of pinch yourself? Like, how did it feel?
Yeah, you have to, because you don't realize what one event or how this can affect somebody or whatever. The Sidney Crosby thing to me was crazy, because like that's his guy, right? And we're talking about the greatest hockey player on the planet right now that's still actively playing, who's not a real popular guy around here in this neck of the woods, right? So gold and black isn't exactly a favorite color in Philadelphia, but that came from the way that whole thing got started. Real quick, was one of our 2010 parents actually came to me and was like, hey, I know a Flyers equipment guy or whatever. So he was down there. There was a phone call made, and the Pittsburgh Penguins equipment guy right away was like, hey, like, Malcolm's here and Gensel's here now. So like, he got a stick and a jersey signed. It was here to me in like 2 days. And then I walked into work one day, and there was a package on my desk from a name that I had no idea. So I opened it up, and it was an autographed jersey from Sidney Crosby, a handwritten note from him. And the sender was his wife. That's why I didn't recognize who it was, but it was just unbelievable. He stepped up right away. And, that's what a kid's hero has to do, right? Stepped up for the kid. And, and I know they've built a little bit of a relationship, and Brian's supposed to be either going out to Pittsburgh or meeting Sid in Philly one of these times. So that's all awesome stuff. And that just brightened his spirits, and, it just helps him get through rough days. And he has all that stuff, and he has all the support.
And we're obviously all still pulling for him. And let's transition off of that, because you brought up two names in there, and Anthony from Grizzled, Anthony Strum, right. Anthony Del Tufo, who played for the Revolution, who are no longer a team in the league. Junior Flyers are no longer a team in the league. And a comparison that I've started to make here in recent weeks, I guess you could say, is that you kind of have a new rival that's taken their spot. in the New Jersey 87s. Do you look at the 87s and compare them to the Junior Flyers and Revolution at all, or is it just totally different?
I mean, there's similarities, and then I think there's always going to be differences, because even in those two that you mentioned, right, the Revolution and the Junior Flyers rivalry was there and will always be there, right? Just because of the youth and the girls and all that sort of stuff, right? And it's good, it's healthy. Like, it's 20 minutes down the road, you have to have good competition. But the way that Jerry, his guys were, like, you always knew you were in a battle, like they were a good shot blocking team, like they grinded it out like all the time. To where the Revolution series could get a little more physical, and there was a little more pleasantries exchanged there, and the Christmas cards went flying and all that sort of stuff. So, but no, but it's similar in the sense that, like, the staffs get along like really well, as far as like Jerry and Rocky were always getting along well with George and Catron and stuff like that. And then same thing with John Roger and his staff and our staffs. Like, there was never anything there. And that's the similarities there with Maddie and Adam. Like, we talked about me having all these people that helped me to where I'm at today. Like, I talk to Maddie pretty often. Like, we talk in the off season, especially this past off season, we were probably talking 2-3 times a week, just figuring out how we were going to get through it and stuff. But those are two good guys, and you appreciate the stuff that they've done there, because it makes them a super competitive team, and it's good to have that. And I think that's what we have in the South. It's good. Like, you always know you're going to be in a battle with them. You're going to be in a battle with Maryland. Look what Protect did this year in their first year. So I think the South's strong right now, and yeah, like that's our new rival, because and you have them at both levels too, right? You have it at the Premier and at the EHL, and it's good. You get to play some back-to-backs and get everybody in the building in one day and see a lot of blue and a lot of black and orange. So,
and at both levels, you've found a way to play each other, and each team has beaten each other at different levels to make it to the Frozen Finals. And of course, those rivalries grow because of the talent that comes through on all the different teams at different levels and in different years, right? And I want to bring in the E crew now, because I'm actually going to let you stay on for the all-time Little Flyers lineup. I know we didn't have Rich DiCaprio stay on last week, but with your history and not being the quote-unquote coach, I want you to stay on, because I'm going to ask you the very first tough question, because then you get to answer it. How closely did you look at the Rangers graphic?
How closer did I look at it?
Yes. Did you notice the bottom right corner?
I didn't study it, but I took a glance at it. No, I don't know what's in the bottom right corner.
So you can make the first decision for us as we welcome in Jeff and Brittany now. The bottom right corner said head coach Rangers Rich DiCaprio. So I'm going to let you make this decision so that we don't have to. And it's because there's been so many good head coaches. But if you had to pick an all-time Little Flyers lineup and you had to choose between Rocky Russo, George Lewis, or Mark Catron, we'll let you make that pick.
That's up to me. I don't even know if I can make that pick.
Abo, careful, buddy.
Yeah, like, this is
some dangerous waters are traveling up.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take 3 co-head coaches. I'm going to do George is going to run my D in the PK. Catron's going to run my power play, and Rocky's going to stand in the middle. So those are my 3 guys, all co-head coaches, all getting paid the same salary.
Beautiful. Oh. There's a win.
And they're all going to listen to this, so that's part of the reason why you had to say that answer, right?
Yeah, those are my guys. I talk to those guys every day. So those are 3 good guys that I owe a lot to. So I'd give them all the job. I'd hire them all twice over if I could.
And let's talk about that for a second before we get into the actual breakdown of the lineup, because each one's been different, but Rocky kind of helped you establish the Little Flyers culture. Can you talk about what he did with your organization in the early years?
Yeah, it was a complete cultural overhaul, which was great. And I think it's something that we needed. But I think that went with what the league was trying to do as well, right? Because we had somebody in here when we were in the Atlantic League, and then the EHL came up the next year, and then Rocky got the job. So it was a big culture change. But look what he came from. He came from a team that won a Robertson Cup, and he won it with some local talent down there, as far as like Mike Davis and those guys go. And then he comes here and he brought that with him. Like, you have to bring that mentality, and that's how you up yourself up to level up. And that's how you're playing in championships and winning 3 regular season championships in a row and putting double-digit kids in college every year. There has to be a culture change, and you have to expect greatness or make guys level up and play to your ability. And if not, then we'll find somebody else that will.
And of course, he has George Lewis as an assistant, and George becomes the head coach. Mark Castron was an assistant, and then he became the head coach. So it's kind of all been this same group together. As you mentioned, everyone stays in contact. So now with the E crew, Jeff and Brittany, where do we want to start then? Because we have the coaches set. Do we want to start forwards, D, or goalie?
Oh, I was gonna say this was another fun one though. Looking through all these old stats again, seeing all these old showcase names that we called years ago. There's a couple of definites too, right? Just like we have with the Rangers. I mean, Joey Savelle, we talked about him.
Yep.
You see
the goalie situation again is too hard. Out of the goalie.
We save goalie for the end.
I forgot how many good goalies they've had. There's a lot. There's at least 4 or 5 that I saw.
I have 5 on my list, but I can make 2 full rosters and be competitive. I'm 99% sure.
And of course, we're trimming down to 12, 6, and 2. And a player that Jeff has named so far is Joey Savelle. I think he has to be on the list also. He was the forward of the year in the 2018-19 season or 2017.
That was the year he owned almost 100 points.
I'm blanking on years. I think it was 2017-18, actually.
Well, if we're going to put him, we got to put Octi.
Yeah, Ochterbeck, definitely. He's another one.
They went together. They were the dynamic duo with Nick McGill-Diaz, but we're not at D yet, so we'll get there.
Yeah, they're D too. Oh my God, they had a couple of. There's one name that I loved from the last Frozen Finals we had in Providence, and I forgot about him. Not forgot about him, but I saw his name and I was like, "Bam, we won't ruin it." So, but yeah, Savelle had 96 points in that 17-18 season.
Yes, that's
31 goals, 65.
It was the 17-18 season. I remember Alo actually pointed this out to me because Ochterbeck in that 17-18 season put up 43 goals.
Yeah,
but
43 and 45. Is that good for the Brit?
No, he had some sort of injury also, right? That
he
kept
had
him out.
I can't remember what it was, but I think it was a collarbone actually.
Yeah, and I have him listed as tied with Devin Panzica, but I think I put him above because I think the games played. I don't have that in front of me right now. I think the games played was there was a pretty good difference there, and if he hadn't had that injury, we're talking about a 50-goal season almost.
Yeah, I think he missed 10 games that year.
Yeah, was that the year we played 50 games?
I think 2017-18 was the 50-game year. Yes.
Yeah.
I see McGill-Diaz played 50, so Ochterbeck played 41. So he had 9 less games.
He almost called it right there.
Yeah.
He had said 10.
He lost. It was around Christmas too, so he got lucky kind of because there was the break there that he didn't miss 3 weeks worth of games. But yeah, Octi was out. That was with him and Panzica back and forth that whole entire season, just putting goals in left and right. It was great.
Yeah. And so we'll say that Jeff has said Savelle so far, and Brittany has said Ochterbeck. So then, Alo, let's hear another forward.
Oh, I'm going to go with my guy, Austin Master. I have to show off Austin Master.
Absolute gem.
And the Stevenson Mustangs. Yeah, he's I think I was talking to somebody about him the other day. He's probably one of the best. He's one of the top 3 two-way players I've ever seen in this league. The kid just brought it all the time. And look what he's done down in Stevenson. He won Rookie of the Year and, helped them get to a conference championship this past year and make them into a national contender there. So he's done really well for himself and can't be any happier with that kid.
And of course,
he also got on the I don't know what it was. It was the championship, all conference, team or whatever you want to call that, whatever it was.
He's just
come on. You guys know what I'm talking about,
yes,
and I just don't know how to word it. But he made
conference?
that
all conference.
No,
all tournament team.
Tournament. Jesus Christ! All tournament team. He made that.
I mean, these numbers from the 2018-19 season. That was the year that I think you guys won 40 games.
That was the year.
On the way to the regular season title and obviously the EHL championship game against the Avalanche. But in total, he played 49 games and put up 80 points. That's just out of this world that season. So we got 3 forwards so far. I guess I'm going to go deeper into the history.
Ooh, a little 2013, 14 season, maybe?
We're going to go back to my first year because Alo kind of sparked it with the first name. And I'm going to go back to Austin Kelly. Oh. And Austin Kelly went on to play at Wisconsin Stevens Point and won a national championship there. I think of the year they went completely undefeated, actually, if I remember correctly.
Wisconsin, Stevens Point. That's a school I haven't heard of.
Well,
I have a good one for that, Neil.
Okay, you go.
I have a good one for Wisconsin Superior too.
So first of all, Austin Kelly, I love the pick. He's on my list as well. I think he's one of the best captains in our history. He's a great leader. What he did out in Stevens Point's great, but he actually played with Adam Beauvais' older brother out there at Stevens Point. So there's another link there as well.
That's how you bring that player in.
That's what you got to do. What you got to do, Neil.
Brittany, where were you going to go with Wisconsin Superior?
Okay, so this is a foreign route.
I can't wait to hear her pronounce this.
I know, because I just really can't. Pavel, is that even how you say that? Or is there some weirdo European pronoun? Sure, Pavel? But I don't know.
Sound it out.
I can't.
You sound it out.
You can do it.
Mikasnok.
Yeah, that was pretty close.
I don't know.
That's pretty close.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that. Yep. Mikasniak.
Pavel Mikasniak, and I think it's story time for a second here, because during the interview,
story time on the show.
During the interview with Ayla before, we talked a little bit about the Revolution rivalry with the Little Flyers, and my first year was the 2015-16 season, and Pavel scored a game-winning goal at what was the January showcase up in Hooksett. And it was a play where there was a lot of contact in front of the net, and the goalie lost his glove, and play continued because it was an imminent scoring chance. And when the goaltender loses a piece of equipment, the only piece of equipment that allows the play to stop is the mask. And he lost his glove, and when the puck circled around, it ended up on Mikasnok's stick. And he shot it into the empty net because it's either I'm going to reach back with the bare hand, because there's no glove there, or I'm not going to stop this thing. Game-winning goal is scored. It actually ended up being, I want to say, Rocky's 100th win as a coach in the EHL. And the head coach of the Revolution at the time was Keith Primo.
I know where this is going.
and the biggest difference between Rocky and Keith Primo is Keith Primo is about 6'5", and
he's a little vertical difference there.
And at that time, there was a little bit. Would you call it hatred, Alo, between the two of them?
A million. Hate's a strong word. I'd call it like a
dislike,
heavy disdain.
And they're celebrating, and obviously Rocky's pumped as his 100th win, and I'm standing next to Keith, and he's got the fist going, and he's got his hands going like this, and I had to walk away. I was like, this guy's getting really angry, and Keith looked at me and goes, I like playing him, I like beating him, but I hate watching them celebrate. And I go, oh my god, like I'm looking up at Keith right now, and then he goes, I fought my brother once in the NHL, right? And I was like, yeah, I know you did. And then he just walked away. And I was like, okay, the conversation is over, I guess.
Neil, I'll be honest with you guys. Like, that's the part that I miss most about like being in the box during games, is just like the chatter back and forth.
Yeah.
And
Me
like
too.
listening to the players chirp each other, and even the coaches throw some good ones in there sometimes. Like,
absolutely.
That's what I miss most about like being in between like the benches during games. Yeah, for sure.
Like, and Rocky has some good fire, of course. And I know he'll
absolutely.
too. And he would go at anyone. And that goal always stands out to me because obviously the name stands out. I always remember who scored it because we don't have many players that have come to this league from Russia. But I want to stay in Russia. For my next pick for forwards, because Mikasnok was great, but
I know where you're going.
Oleg Potemkin was possibly the hardest player I've ever seen in this league. Like,
he's a big boy.
If he hits you, it was so that you would go through the glass. Like, that was his attempt, was for you to go through the glass.
He was heavy, but he could play offense too. It wasn't like when he was a heavy grinder that just went out there and decked people and couldn't put pucks in the net.
Look at the size: 6'3", 215, and it says 50 points in 45. And I know as a crew, we went over this last week. 6-game winners that year. Always had a knack for big goals. I know
PIMS too. 119. It's a nice.
I know
fiery side.
I know
a lot of those were due to size and hitting smaller guys. I think that was
or he was defending his teammates.
That kid was an absolute tank for us. Like Oleg's the man. He's a good kid.
And I know it'll be you won't want to hear this, Salo, but he missed an overtime winner in that 2015-16 finals by about an inch. Like it's when Jeff, you say it when we broadcast games, toe save or a skate save, like he hit the blade of the Monarchs goalie's skate. Like it was that close. And obviously a fantastic player, and I love just you guys mentioned it. His size led to some pims at times, but if I was on the ice against him and there was a puck in the corner, I would button hook out of the way and he can have that puck.
Yeah, you don't want to go into a one-on-one with Oleg in the corner for sure.
Mr. Potemkin, here you go, sir. Take this wherever you'd like.
So obviously there's more forwards, guys. We got 6 though so far, so you could say 2 lines. We have Savelle, Ochterbeck, Master, Kelly, McHasenok, and Potemkin.
Alex Peterson.
Alex Peterson. I was gonna say, when is the time to fast
Get
forward?
Up, Holy Cross.
The more recent teams, because we did
down the street for me is Holy Cross. So come on, gotta include the locals.
And
Peterson.
I don't know if Alo will want to say this. Is Peterson arguably the best forward in franchise history for the Little Flyers?
Oh, I don't know if I can say that, but
that could be another episode.
As far as growth and success goes, possibly, yeah. Because Alex, he did a great job for us that year as a rookie, and then did what he did in Amarillo, and he's still putting up. I think he led Holy Cross in scoring this year. I'm pretty sure again. Yep. So, you can say that absolutely if you want to put him in there. Neil said it, so
I said it.
Alex is a great kid, though. He's another one of those kids that comes back in the summertime. He's hanging around, so he's good to have for the program.
Okay,
he's good for the brand, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
He loves to say.
I haven't said that in so long.
I know. We got to get that back in the rotation.
Oh, look, there's another person, but he's a D.
Well, we're not going to get to the D yet.
I know. That's why I said wait.
I think you were thinking the one I was teasing earlier.
MG.
Okay. I'm gonna stay with the forwards still.
I know who you're talking about.
A forward that I want to go to next, I want to say was at least a 2-year player with the organization. Another captain, I want to say as well, went on to play at Tufts. Peter Haddon. Well, you want to talk about 2-way players? I think this kid gave it every single shift he had at every inch of the ice that could be out there. So I'm going to go with Peter Haddon. And I think in talking with Pat Norton on the golf course last year.
Absolute beauty.
You golf, Neil? Neil, do you golf?
Yeah, you golf.
I wasn't.
Look at these headshots. These headshots are 15 out of 10.
The Little Flyers were one of the first teams
are awful. Everybody look at this year and take notes.
That was all Lindsay Tendler. Shout out to Lindsay Tendler, who was our videographer for a year. She did a great job doing those headshots.
Everyone's got shirts and ties and a nice black background. Makes them all look serious. The
Little Flyers set the pace with the headshots, that's for sure. But what Pat Norton said about what made Haddon so great, besides the leadership side of it, is that in the EHL, 70 points in 60 games this season. That was the 2016-17 year. He said what he loved about having him so much at Tufts is he isn't that player at Tufts, but he's adapted to the role that he has as a 3rd or 4th line, more of a grinder. And we mentioned Potemkin's size earlier, and Patton is not the same way. He's 5'11", 185 listed here, but he didn't back down from anything.
No, he had an edge to him for sure. Peter Haddon he did a good job.
These kids are still younger than me. I'm shook. What the heck?
So, Ayla, you said you have almost two lineups, so you must have more forwards.
2 full teams.
We'll let you pick the next forward.
I think somebody you always have to throw in there. So, that's why I was asking you about if we're looking at where they're at now, Brett Adler now has to be in the conversation. He's playing Division I hockey at Army. He had a really good rookie year for us that year that we were in the finals with our good and close friend Jerry from Jerry's World. And
then
he went down to Amarillo and he played well down there and he got his Division I commit, so he has to be on that roster there.
If you want to talk about full episodes dedicated to other stuff, I know it's always a tough one, but the 2016-17 finals is a whole nother episode.
Oh, you could do a 4-part special on that and just play it throughout the summer, because that was with everybody involved in that and all the travel that took place and how long the series lasted. You can get some good stories out of that one.
And I forgot Abdelnauer was a little flyer, because I've seen him when he comes to Bentley. We see Army every year, and he's been an awesome player for them, Elo.
Oh yeah, he's been good. I mean, he put up good numbers there. He was another kid that he gave you he was undersized and he played like he thought he was 6'4", and he's not.
And you have to be, if you're going to play for Coach Riley and Army, that's their motto is you better work your what off, or you're not making this team.
That is Brett Abdelnauer to a he's done a great job.
And I'll take the next forward, I guess.
Do it.
What's consistent about the Little Flyers and the Rangers from last week is they're actually part of the EHL's original 6. We're down to an original 6 that have been in the league since 2013. What I have heard, there have been some gripes about our lineup last week, Jeff and Brittany. There have been a few people that, yes. Well, we didn't really touch on the 13, 14, 14, 15 seasons at all. So I'll do that this week again. I know I mentioned
I have a bunch of those guys.
I mentioned Austin Kelly earlier, but I want to mention Drew Gannon next. And part of the reason being is obviously what he did in the EHL in 83 career games, put up nearly 100 points with 98 points. But just one of the best guys. Like whenever we played UMass Boston, like he was not that they had to be, but he was just so welcoming. Like he loved the chance to play our all-star team each year. And I mean, it stood out whenever we played them. Like he had a chance to do something, and he put up points in those games as well. And it's always just whenever we played UMass Boston, I was like, all right, here we go. We got Drew Gannon again. So I will always remember that player.
Awesome, Drew Gannon. Welcome to the E Show. Little Flyers all-time team.
Yeah,
we're down to 2 forward spots.
2 left. I can't wait to get to the defenseman. You guys,
me too.
Defenseman, holy hell!
So
is that all it is? It's 2 forward spots left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who do you got?
We got 10.
We have 10 forwards so far, and I don't want this to be a shot to this year's team, but we haven't taken anyone from this year's team yet.
I was gonna say
just for his name alone. What about Robbie Connor McDonald? Personally,
Robbie C-Wagon. Do.
Well, but we have Alo on. So Alo, is there a name that we've missed that really stands out to you
for this year's team?
For any years, because I have one more forward that I think I want to push, and I want to hear where he is on your list.
We have to get at least one from the newer teams.
So, as far as like newer goes, I'd say like in the last 2 or 3 years, like just names that you could consider. I'm not putting them on any list, but like names for consideration. Obviously, like you already talked about Master. What Mikey G did in his first year, Mikey G and Papa, you have to take into consideration. Then he came back this year. Jake Berg, maybe his offensive numbers weren't there, but I'll say Jake Berg's the best forward penalty killer in the EHL that the EHL has ever seen. Like that kid would block anything from absolutely anywhere. As far as like new guys go, Scott McGraw. I think Scott McGraw's game's underappreciated. He was our quarterback on the power play there. I don't have his stats in front of me for this year, but I know he had a ton of
45 points in 35 games for you, Elo.
Yeah.
19 on the power play.
19 on the power play. He did a good job for us, and he just came back as a leader, like really matured and stuff like that. So I'd give those guys a certain consideration. But if there's 2 spots left, you guys pick them. Because there's some older names in there too that should get some love.
Here's one name that I have to lean towards because he was a multi-year guy for you guys, went on to play at Utica, and that's
Jamie, I had him on my list too.
Oh, not the only one then.
I have Jamie Bussell on my list as well. Yeah, Jamie still is. Jamie's a good kid. Every time Utica comes in this building to play Newman, he always stops by my office and talks for a couple minutes. So,
and we talked about pipelines earlier. We talked about pipelines earlier for you guys with some of the NA South. You guys also had a pipeline to Utica for a little while there as well. So we got 1 forward spot left.
Oh, geez,
that's it. Just one.
Go ahead, Britt. PLF girlfriend.
Yeah, no. I don't know.
He doesn't want that pressure.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm good.
What do you want the quality to be? Do you want it to be a points guy? Do you want it to be toughness? Because
I'm a big Jacob Berg fan as well. I like Jacob Berg personally.
What about Kevin Brown too? Was he a captain for you guys?
He was a co-captain with Berg.
Let's go back to that roster. Player. Hello, go back.
Which roster? Which year?
Not that one.
Which one of the 8 that we've gone through?
Yeah, all right. Yeah. What about Reese Bergman? Come on. I am the biggest Reese Bergman advocate on planet Earth. I love that kid. He is an absolute gem. Great human being. Is one of the, as I say, families where the little brother is filthy. They qualify for that one.
I mean, I don't know if this is the pick, but I was referencing toughness earlier. Nate Rogers.
Bobby Nate, what a guy.
Tore his ACL. Like the first game, right, with you guys or something like that? Or maybe it was like second game.
Second game, yeah.
And then flopped back the next year, went on to play at MSOE. There's obviously so many guys that we could pick for this spot. I think labeling it as the last spot doesn't do it justice. Like it's the 12th guy, but he's very talented. Yeah. I think from the sound of this group, I think we have to go towards Jacob Berg for this spot.
Yes,
that's fair enough.
And I know that
there's too many good choices. You can't.
I know that leaves out forwards from the 2020-21 season. But when we do this again next summer, maybe a couple of those guys will slide in and steal a spot. But this 12 forward group, to recap, of Joey Savelle, Alex Ochterbeck, Austin Master, Austin Kelly, Pavel McHazenok, Oleg Potemkin, Alex Peterson, Peter Hatton, Brett Abdelnauer, Drew Gannon, Jamie Bussell, and Jacob Berg. Let's put that 12 forward group against the Rangers 12 forward group, and that would be a heck of a matchup right there.
A couple of goals would be scored. Maybe.
Depends
on the goaltending matchup. So
let's get to that. Let's start with the D first. I know that Brittany mentioned
there's so many good ones.
I have a favorite.
I have 3 top. I have 3 let's get it rolling. These are my top 3.
Okay.
Number 1, obviously the king of PLF, Nick Deluzio.
Yeah, he was good.
Throw him on there. At UMass Boston. Oh my God. He is the nicest kid I have ever met in my entire life. Okay. Literally. Hey, Lo, come on, back me up.
No, I'm with you 100%. I love Nick Deluzio.
And now he's on the bench with Mark. Oh my God.
He helped us out a lot this year when he was at home. He's just a good kid. I've known him since he's probably been in 7th or 8th grade, which makes me sound like I'm really old, but I'm not. Well, no, he's a great kid. I've known him around the rink for years, since I started working here, and he's just, he's a good hockey player, but he's developed into a good young man and very respectful and does whatever he can to help the organization back out. So he's a great kid. We love him Nick here.
I like that. We like the good players and good humans.
Who are the other two?
He's really good.
Brett.
Well, I know we talked about Clendenin Stewart as the tree, but the original tree was Ziggy Moroz, everybody at home.
Zygmunt! Oh my gosh.
Zygmunt!
Was that one of your 3 that you had?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Had to have been.
And I have another one. Season. I have one more after that.
Well, let's go over that. That season. Look at this. We have Master.
Points.
Right? Master led the team in scoring 2018-19 with 80 points, but Moroz had 80.
Power play assists? Are you kidding me?
Rose had 80 from the back end, and Deluzio on any other team would have been the leading scorer defensively, but he was on this team with Moroz, and he had 66 points. To get 144 points from 2D is out of this world.
Yep, was that team crazy. Yeah, was that team good? Dude, come on. This team is Alo was really the only one who will understand this. Take me home, country road. This is that team.
I just remember
John Denver playing in the background. This was a good team.
Ziggy Moroz was filthy at that.
I see my third one.
Too. And what's the best part? Neil and Zeke could do a spinoff podcast together, and I think they'd have so many viewers because Zeke's hilarious.
Well, let's go story time again, right?
Let's go. Also, I have a story time after too. Go.
Okay, so my favorite Moroz story came in the 2018-19 season when he was a part of the All-Star team that played the college teams, Drew Gannon.
What a damn ass team that was.
And UMass Boston. And it was hysterical when we're on a college tour and he pulls me aside and goes, Neil, I have to ask you something. I'm like, does this kid have to like go home or something? Like what's going on? And he goes, I know we're here like touring the campus right now, but like, when do we get to nap?
Wow.
I was like, what did he just say?
Big tree fall hard.
He's like, I have to sleep at a certain time before games. And I was like, okay. I was like stumped. I didn't know how to answer it. He goes, it's part of my pregame routine. I go, okay, we'll find time for a nap for you. and he looked at me and goes, thank you, and walked away.
Wow.
Zeke. All right. So here's a quick one. So Zeke, we were winning pretty handily. One game, Zeke scores a power play goal from the point when I was scorekeeping still. And Zeke skates by the bench, and like how our setup is, he stops, which is basically like the visitor's penalty box. Stops on the way back to the handshake line. And he goes, hey, Lo, did you see that? I was like, yeah, I saw it. Zeke's like, that was for you, buddy. And keeps on skating by the line.
Nice.
I was like, Zeke, like, what are you? Like, he's a character. He's a
donating goals and
character.
Dude, everybody needs to watch, which I am still pissed you don't do ever since this year. You need to watch Little Flyer, 25 Days of Little Flyers Christmas. Dude, the Zeke Christmas video, I cry laughing to this day about
I'm gonna bring that back for this year. We're gonna do that this year. Good job, Brett.
Like Zeke is so funny, dude. Like, oh my god.
The best is how you guys use the stick as the microphone.
It just came together like so organically. Octi was just walking around like talking to people with it one day. I was like, and you never knew Octi had that kind of personality because exactly, he's the most quietest kid and just had a great personality behind the camera. So, all right, we'll bring it back. We got to find a funny kid on next year's team.
I feel like we can find some candidates.
Yeah.
And overall in his career, I mean, the numbers are just astounding. He put up 140 points in 144 career games. So
good Lord,
just outside the top 10 in all-time points, and obviously a special talent and some funny stories.
Might be our Bobby Orr of the EHL.
Yeah, some funny stories as well. I think Brittany's third D that she had
is Nick McGill-Diaz.
Yeah, man, I was gonna say our third D is a guy with 3 names. He
was also on the 25 Days of Little Flyers team. Again, if anybody wants to go creep the YouTube page for Little Flyers, please do.
I'm gonna check that out. I don't think I'm
gonna send you. You know, I'm gonna find it right now and send you the link.
Please. There's a bloopers reel too.
Oh my god, the bloopers reel is electric.
Yeah, that was.
Dude, you guys could have made that into a DVD, Alo, and could have.
Oh my god,
that could have been on VHS. We're selling them in the Iceworks parking lot.
Oh, VHS.
Oh my god, look, here is Zeke screaming.
And McGill-Diaz won the Defenseman of the Year award back in the 2017-18 season. That was the first year that we ever had the Frozen Finals. Little Flyers made it to the finals that year, of course, and I want to say he played through the finals with a broken wrist or something crazy. Rough. Like we've used the word toughness a number of times on this podcast. Like this group we have here is tough. But that's 3D so far. I think that those ones obviously have stood out to us from the point totals and obviously the accolades for McGill-Diaz. The D that I want to point out, I want to say was my first year or my second year, 2015-16. And I keep going back to toughness. I think this kid's ankle or something was almost broken that year. Chris Best was probably the best skater I have ever seen in this league. Like, this kid could absolutely fly.
Pun intended.
Oh no, that was all intention there, Meek. That was all intention.
Chris Best was the best.
Was he on your list too?
On mine?
Yes.
Yeah, Chris. Well, I mean, I have 11 guys on my list, but Chris Best.
6D's got 11. He said 2D.
Chris Best is one of my 11, but no, that kid was tough as nails. Like that. Do you want to talk about it being a captain and a leader? It's that kid right there. I think he came to us as like a 16-year-old. Rocky's first year, 16 turning 17, and didn't make it through the season, and then came back and he was just lights out and made his commitment to Stevenson. And, you know, once he got there, he didn't end up playing college hockey, but he still, here's the crazy part, right? But this is what it's all about at the end of the day. So Chris Best plays here, Oleg Potemkin plays here. Those two are best friends to where, like, the first summer, Best is in Russia all summer long. And then they both go to Stevenson together. I see Best here at Iceworks when Stevenson comes and plays, because he still comes and supports Oleg. So, awesome. You know, you still get to see the kids even though they're not playing. But yeah, Chris Best definitely deserves to be on that list. He was a gamer.
That's cool when they become friends. Like, well, obviously they're friends when they play together, but then stick to being good friends after they leave. It shows you.
Yeah, it's awesome to see.
Can I have a EHLP to EHL progression player on this list?
Oh, the Malandruco.
There is one.
There is one, and
absolutely.
I think that it's the name that Alo is thinking of, because he played EHLP, moved up to EHL, and is still in that building at Newman. Nate Dunning may have been the best player at the 2019 Frozen Finals. Like, he was so good during the finals, and I know the Avalanche went on to win the championship that year, but Dunning played out of his mind in those finals. It always stands out to me. I think he scored the first goal.
I think that was the goal that I accidentally celebrated for. Accidentally.
It was the goal you 1,000,000% celebrated for.
Yeah. No, it was on accident. It is a legend, but it was Nate Dunning who scored that goal. I remember that clear as day.
The Nate Dunning, the Dunning celebration picture from that goal is great, but like, you could just see it being Nate or Britt. It doesn't matter which one it is. They're both celebrating the same.
If we want to keep the stories going, it was George texting me the screenshot of Hockey TV and saying, "Look how high off the ground Brittany is jumping after that goal."
She thought she was at a Celtics game.
This is the combine.
He went and paused it and took a screenshot of it. And I remember the best part about it is it happened, and it was an unreal goal. And Brittany turns around and looks at me and was like, "I should have done that." And I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god."
That was her rookie season, right?
Yes,
she was still a newbie there. Yeah,
just still finding her wings, you know.
Right, that was my squad. Those were my peeps that year. That was the squad.
So that's 5D so far: Nick Deluzio, Zeke Morose, Nick McGill-Diaz, Chris Best, and Nate Dunning. Alo, we kept you on for this, so I'll let you pick the last one. You probably have, I would imagine. You had those 5 guys, so that means you said you have 6 left to pick from.
Yeah, 6 names in here. Yeah. Gabe Chukrin, no doubt about it.
Ooh.
Yep.
Oh, UMass
Boston.
Hockey another UMass Boston. Wait, right? Or am I stupid?
No, no, you're right, Britt.
And he was one of the older teams. He was
he was
13-14 or 14-15.
He was on that original team. He was actually playing in the NA a little bit that year, and then he came back to us 13-14, and then he played 14-15 as well, and then went to UMass Boston. But Gabe was a captain for us, and I wish you guys could have seen him play, because when you talk about, you know, the Deluzio game, the Morose game, the Dunning game, like Gabe was part of all. I almost called him Nate, who's his brother. Gabe Chukrin, he's all that. Like, Gabe has the Zeke scoring ability. He was the physicality that Dunning had. He had the skating ability. Like, he had it all. So I definitely give him that spot for sure.
He was
the pre-Neil Ravin era.
2014-15.
Yep. Right before.
But he won the Defenseman of the Year award that year. And I'm trying to find the box score. UMass Boston made the Frozen Four. I'm blanking out whatever season it was. But they had this wild overtime, like 7-6 game at the Frozen Four, their trip, and I want to say he had like 4 or 5 assists in the Frozen Four. Like I remember looking at the box score afterwards, it was like Chukrin. I was like, oh my god, what a game for this kid. But yeah, an unreal talent, and that rounds out our D and gets us to like once again the toughest part of the lineup. Because it was this tough for us last week as well. There have been just so many good goalies in the history of the Little Flyers, but I have to stick with our format. How do we narrow this down to 2?
Good luck, guys.
You narrow it down to whose dad owned the team.
Well, and when you do that, there's 3
Brent,
goalies.
do you even know who in the team before?
Oh my gosh! Remember one time I screwed that one time. Giacomo. Yeah. One time I said he owned the Junior Flyers, so that was good.
He said he played for the Junior Flyers somehow. I don't know how that would happen.
Ouch! But I'm highlighting 3 names right there, and Trevor Machucci, Sam Caney, and Brendan Brawley, who all won Goalie of the Year awards.
I feel like Brawley has to be on that.
Well, when you go off numbers and you look back, Brawley is the all-time winningest goalie in the EHL, 51 wins, and he had 13 shutouts, which I want to say the 2018-19 season, 8 of them came in that season. So I think Brawley has to be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I would vote yes, personally.
How many goalies did you mark down, Halo?
I have 5.
Okay.
No, I'm being serious. Like when I meant 2 like real rosters, like the 6D that are going to play on the second team can compete with the first team. So good goalie situations. Good luck, guys.
So
I'll let you guys make those calls. I'll take all 5 of them. I'll take
Giacobo was another one, and then I remember Henson too. Was it Alex Henson?
Alex Henson. Yep.
Yes.
He was really good. I think I interviewed him at the Frozen Finals.
Yeah, you did. I was there.
That was back in our.
That's when you would do interviews and I would do the camera.
That was when we were doing the Frozen Finals infancy. We were at bringing it up to the level we brought it up to now, where we're doing pre-game, post-game.
Isn't it crazy how far it's advanced? Like from Frozen Finals 1 to what you guys did this year.
Yeah,
like in between the boards, interviews, and it's been good. Good product.
I do have to say, Illo, we were 20 minutes up the road. We didn't see you.
Yeah, I know.
Ooh.
That's all right.
All the North Country came down to the South, and we still didn't see our man, Halo.
He's a
busy man. He's in demand.
I didn't even get to see Knox. Like the audacity.
I know. It was too many. It was too many New Englanders in one area for me. No, I'm joking.
Gave Halo hives if he's around too many people.
There's too many Celtics fans in the building. Yeah.
So itchy.
So.
McLaren too. He's another one. He had an undefeated season as a backup goaltender. Like, what the heck?
That was a special year.
How many GPs against NC?
60. He went 60-0 that year
with a 1.52 goals against and almost a 930 save percentage, 3 shutouts for a backup.
And I am going to close out these tabs that have McLaren and Brawley, and then the year that McLaren was the starter, because I don't think the second guy comes from there. I don't think it's Jakub Kubik.
So man Jakub Kubik from Fantasy.
Closing out the tabs that I'm narrowing this down, I guess you could say. All right. We're kind of at now Trevor Machucci.
Yeah.
We're
Sam Caney. He was a Revolution too, was it? Caney?
No. Sam Caney, who won the goalie of the year this year, the 16-17 season. I mean, the numbers compared with Giacobo are just Caney in the 16-17 season went 21-4-1 versus Giacobo's 18-3-1. You want to compare
look at those goals
against to each other. It's 1-3-2 or 1-2-6. And then 9-4-6 save percentage, 9-4-1. They combined for 12 shutouts 12. So I am going to close out Henson. He was great that season. I mean,
Alex, your goals against a little high, man. You're at 1.75. You're pushing 2 goals a game, Alex. We can't have that on the Little Flyers all-time team. You got to be around 1.
I'm going to narrow this down for us, and I'm going to go.
How do I spell this Machucci character?
I'm going to go to 2 different ones to pick from, because we already have Brawley, and I'm going with either Machucci or Caney.
Oh, Giacobo. See ya.
Oh, and it's tough, right?
Controversy.
We only have 2 to pick, and both of these guys won Goalie of the Year awards.
I mean, we could do an honorable mention list too, Neil. That could be something we could add to this in the future.
I think
outside the votes,
Well, I have to do some sort of lineup for teams that aren't here anymore, I guess you could say. So I could kind of tie that into an honorable mention, because at some point we have to mention Caden Primo. I know the Revolution.
Right.
I'd say so. Here. Yes. But
he was a big deal. Kind of big deal.
If we did a Revolution lineup and we cut out Schrum or Del Tufo, two of the league's partners.
I would say we're going to be hearing from Grizzled. We won't be getting so much Grizzled gear no more. Oh no!
So
from
honestly, the Rev list would be pretty fire.
The Rev list would be good. They'd have a really good team.
And John would come on.
I was going to say that we could have the all coaches. We could have Roger.
Well,
Joe,
maybe Alo would pick one Revolution coach then. I know he didn't want to pick one Little Flyers coach. So, but when you compare
for coach of the year,
yes, yeah. When you compare the numbers for Caney versus Machucci, Caney had 2 seasons with the Little Flyers. Machucci had 1. Machucci in that
because
season,
where'd he go after that?
He went up to the NA, eventually ended up with Amarillo, that same pipeline that we touched on. Machucci in that season went 19-1-1 with a 1.69 and a 9.38. 5 total shutouts when you combine between the regular season and the playoffs. Overall, in Caney's career, he was 43-13-1 with a 1.69. So literally the same exact goes against average. Literally.
See, this is tough too, because Caney played almost 100 career games compared to Machucci's almost 20.
And a 9.38 save percentage, 12 shutouts. I am gonna go with Sam. I don't know. I don't know if you guys are okay with me kind of taking the lead on this.
I'm good with it.
But Sam was obviously a 2-year kid in this league. When you don't want to talk about interviews, Brittany, I didn't share this one in my time hop the other day, but my interview of Sam at the end of the 2016-17 finals game 3, I was the first one to do interviews. No microphone. I was just talking to the iPhone. I didn't know it was my hands. But
I'm pretty sure I recorded that.
I think you did. We were in one of the locker rooms at Iceworks, and I think that we could have a whole other episode on the Little Flyers 2016-17 series, but they deserve better. Sam deserved better in that series because he played very well. As I mentioned, there was a shutout in there. There was a fluky double overtime bounce in there that went past him that I'm sure Alo will remember forever. But
I'll never forget it.
Sam was just the nicest kid in the world, and maybe it's a little bit bias, something that I talk about a lot on this podcast, and these guys know. But he spent summers in Maine, so that earns a little extra point in my book.
Bury the lead, deal. There we go.
Now we know. If Trevor would have spent summers in Maine, he would have been fine.
Absolutely, Alo. 132,000%.
Yeah. So I remember meeting Sam's parents at the finals. I think 2015-16, or in the 2016-17 season. And just the nicest people in the world. And Sam was
from Maine, of course.
Yeah.
No, they're not from Maine. It literally says Phoenix.
He's actually from Alaska.
Really?
I think he's from Arizona.
No, he lived in Arizona. He's from Phoenix.
Oh, he's from Russia.
I mean, he's from
and obviously now at Trinity College, which is one of the best teams in Division III hockey. So I'm going to go with Sam, and that's going to round out our lineup. It's a pretty darn good lineup.
No bad picks there.
Nope. So I'm sure when we look back on Alo's 20 forwards and 11 D and 5 goalies, there are guys that we did miss, but I think this is a good group, and I appreciate you staying on for this part of it because there's been so many good Little Flyers teams, and you helped us through this, because if you hadn't helped us through it, we'd probably be on this podcast for about 2 hours.
Truth.
And let's end it the way that we did last week. Brittany, who are we going to have on next week?
Oh no!
Oh, we going back to the north? Are we going to do north south? We'll bounce.
Yeah, let's do.
Oh, Brick gets the pick?
Oh no, I know. We're going East Coast
queen,
Wizards. East Coast Wizards. Here we go.
Wizzies. We have to do it on Wednesday, so we can do it.
We're doing it Wizzies because I literally have my one forward that I can't wait to hype the living heck out of. Neil already knows who it is.
I think we know your top defenseman pick too from possibly.
True, that's season. True. That's
Jack
true.
Joe.
So
Jack
my challenge will be to see if I can get Freddie Meyer to come on the podcast for the first time ever with Corey too, because Corey's been on. Freddie never came on, and as I mentioned when my interview began with Alo, we had probably name dropped him a good 200 times on this podcast, but he gets to come on for the first time. So I appreciate you coming on, Alo, and for the E-Crew guys, let's do this again next week, East Coast Wizards style.
All right.
EC Dub.
Thanks, Alo. Good to see you, buddy.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Great job.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.